Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Call the meeting to order. The Orange County Board of Education pledges to its citizens to conduct its business in a courteous and productive manner, showing respect for fellow board members, staff, and citizens. The board asks its citizens to conduct themselves in the same courteous towards both school personnel and each other. As per the board policy, Robert's Rules of Order will be used to conduct meetings. A moment of silence will be observed before each meeting. In addition to a moment of silence at each meeting held at a school site, the board will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The board asks that you check your cell phones and other electronic devices to be certain they are either turned off or on vibrate to avoid interruptions to the meeting. At this moment, we will take a moment of silence. All right. I will take a point of privilege at this point. So many of you may or may not know that at this point we do have a last meeting for a couple of people here. I do have a beautiful word of appreciation to Miss Patricia Coleman. Yes, you. You can come to the front. Yes, please. Please come up. This beautiful plaque was done by our own students with under the direction of Mr. Keith Yao. They did a wonderful job. It is beautiful, and it is a piece of Orange County Schools. We appreciate all you've done.
Thank you. So what does it say?
Thank you.
Very fair. Award of appreciation presented to Patricia Coleman for the distinguished and unselfish service to Orange County Schools, serving with outstanding leadership, vision, and ability. You have made such an impact on all of us. Thank you. Orange County Board of Education, June 2019. Thank you. Please do.
To go around telling. Well, no, I didn't prepare anything, but I really would like to say to the board members and to the superintendent and to the staff that are here in this room and to those from the community and those from afar, that this job has been one of the greatest things that I've ever done in my life. I've been doing it a long time, obviously, and I love it, and I love the school system, and I love the community. And the people in this room have made me able to do the job that I've done, and I hope that I've done it well. I certainly have given it every attempt, and I am just looking forward to the day next week when I can spend it with my family, my husband who's here. Thank you, Ken.
Monday nights we get back.
With my family and my children, and having some downtime with them. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this, because this has been my life now, and I'll let someone else take it and make theirs, I hope. But thank you, board. Thank you. And Dr. Work. Thank you, Dr. H.
I just want to say that the chair that this wonderful woman has sat in, since 1973, only 3 people have sat in that chair, and she's number 3. And Dr. Rainey knows well what I'm talking about, because she spent a significant number of years down here. And no one has served as well as Patricia Coleman. And I'm forever thankful for all you've done.
Thank you, Dr. H. Thank you. And Mr. Reels.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a special thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I'll sit down.
Yeah, you have work to do.
I have work to do, excuse me.
You write all that down?
I did not expect that.
And for, the second, you may know, this is Dr. Wert's last meeting, and we definitely wanted to commemorate this as well. In appreciation for distinguished and unselfish service, outstanding leadership, vision, and ability to serve students and staff of the Orange County School, Dr. Todd Wirt, Superintendent, July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2019, Orange County School Board of Education. Thank you for all your time.
Just say quickly, I wanna first thank the Stevens, Mr. McKnight, and Dr. Halkiotis, who were on the original board that gave me a shot, and I appreciate that very much. I will forever be grateful for that. And to all the board, it's been a pleasure, certainly getting to know you and understanding what's important to you, and at the core of it, I know just kids are important to each of you, so thanks to the staff. We've got an incredible staff here. I look around the room too, just so many people from the community that I learned so much from. Dr. Rainey always gave me the truth whether I wanted it or not. I always appreciated that, and other members of the community as well that I've just learned so much from. So, and certainly thank you to my wife who said yes 19 years ago today. We will now be super active parents. But thank you. Thanks very much.
You won't be the first. Right, this is how you spend your anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Thank you, Mr. McKnight.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, buddy. Thanks, Dr. Ridley. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, in closing with that, again, I would just like to thank Keith Yao and all of the students in the woodworking classes at Cedar Ridge for a wonderful job and amazing quality of these awards. That's, we didn't go buy these off a shelf. We didn't go get them anywhere. We had our kids make them, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Agenda adoption. I do know we need an amendment to the agenda for closed session afterwards. Do we have a motion?
I move the agenda adoption with the provision for a closed session afterwards.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item D.
D?
Please.
The budget?
Budget, it says
Personnel
personnel.
report. Oh, personnel report, sorry. I thought you said.
I'm gonna pull item H, HVAC engineering design contract.
Okay. All right, how about we have them right after approval of consent item? Is
And
that-
if personnel is about a particular person, the board would need to go back into closed session on that.
It would just be easier for me just not to vote on the personnel,
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I see, got it, thank you.
like
Okay.
before.
Okay. All right, so I will have those for right after the consent agenda with those two items pulled. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent with those amendments.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll start with the personnel report and recommendations. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. HVAC, Dr. Wirt?
I think at this point, we'd like to hear Dr. Halkiotis' questions, and we have Mincy here to answer any questions that Dr. H may have.
Well, I was just curious, who comprised the team that looked at all of the proposals? And have the attorney explain that the bid amount, the cost of the design services is $1,135,000. Is this the kind of thing that you would not take competitive bids for?
This was for the design services, so, well, what process did you guys follow?
So we followed a process of, placed the RFP out first. Companies that were interested sent proposals. From there, we set up an interview and invited groups to come and to be interviewed. And we had a panel, and I was looking for my list of names, Dr. H. Let's see, the panel was Rhonda Rath, Jason Johnson, myself, Nick Mincy, Sarah Pitts, and Roger Ivy. Once the candidates that we selected to interview came, we had a list of questions that we gave them for consideration were their design capabilities, the availability of their team, the time frame that the work could be done in, a schedule of compliance, and then we followed that up with advantages of using their actual firm, the things that they were the strongest suited in, and then management of the design and the construction, and then we asked them to look at as much as we could, until you hire that firm, they cannot produce work. So we could only ask them to consider what our jobs were and were they capable of handling those projects.
So does that meet the ACID legal test in this whole thing?
It looks like that they followed board policy 9110, use and selection of architects, engineers, and so on and so forth. It talks about an RFP which was done. It talks about selection of a committee of no fewer than 3, generally no more than 5, to review the RFP responses. So you guys just went straight down this policy and
Yes, sir.
complied with it.
You've answered my questions. I was just curious about the amount and not the need for having a competitive bid process.
Seems like that was a competitive process. It's just not the same that you're used to.
Okay.
Yes, not tied to a financial amount.
Right, correct.
Any additional questions?
I move approval on that item.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we are to the North Carolina School Board Association Superintendent Search Survey Results Presentation.
Hello, board members, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you, Allison. Sam, good to see you.
Nice to be here to present, Let's get the logistics down. Okay. So we have some handouts for the board and a few for the community as well. Okay, so what we have for the board tonight, so nice to see all of you. What we have for the board tonight is a report from your survey on the superintendent search and also a report about the community forums. So we're gonna get the laptop hooked up, and as soon as we get that done, we will start. What we have for the board is copies of the results. The board was, information was posted for the board online, and you all had access to that. This is a summary of the information.
Oops, that's all right. I have a hole in my hand.
That's okay. We do have a few, did you get Patricia? Yes. We have a few that we can hand out to. Sure. So as you know, the board started with, to survey the community and the staff, when we began this process about 2 months ago, or a little less than that, to see what the concerns of the community and the staff were. And, okay,
So I'm just gonna go down, the information that is on the PowerPoint is also in the information that is being presented. But, normally we recommend a student and a staff survey, so that you, and separately, so you can see how the community, feels differently from the staff or how much they are on the same page. So I'm gonna report on both of those. First of all, we had 209 people start the community, survey, and 195 finished. That is very common, because, a lot of people, I mean, that's just normal, we see a number drop off in the middle, where they got called away by their kids or something. And then we had 201 comments. And then with the staff, 332 started, 319 finished, and 209 comments. And those surveys were completed by June 10. So that's a good number for a system this size, that we usually see in the 200 range, so actually you had a little more with the staff surveys. And again, remember what this was people had an opportunity to comment. All those comments went to the board. We aren't gonna characterize the comments that were made. We did have to redact out the personnel information that was contained in there, but that information is public information and is to be shared with the board. So let's talk about who filled out the surveys. We had 73% of the community surveys, folks who filled that out said they had students in the schools, and 26 or 27% said that they did not. So about 3/4 of the respondents in the community survey had children in the schools. The majority, about 80 of those, the most, had children in elementary school, then followed by high school, then middle school, and a few pre-K parents as well. That's pretty typical, because the most grades are in elementary school, then high school, then middle school, so that's about the same, an even number in terms of the numbers of students there. There was a question about family income, over 100,000, between 50 and 100,000, and under 50,000. That was something the board requested. About 7% said they earned under 50,000 household information. About 35% were 50 to 100,000, and about 56% were 100,000 or more. So, okay. We had ethnicity. The large majority, about almost 90%, were white or Caucasian. Only about 8% were African American, and then we had about 0.5% Hispanic or Latino, and then a few other groups of folks. So again, that was something the board was particularly interested in. Staff demographics, about 4% were administrators who responded, about 64% were teachers, and about 32% were support staff. Okay, so that's about consistent with how many teachers you have, which is the large percentage of the staff that you have. And then we had about 44% from elementary school, 23% from middle school, and high school was 31%. The PowerPoint isn't working, but you guys have the information that you see. And then staff income information is available there too, 26% under 50,000, about half at 50 to 100, and then 25% above 100. And that's a household income, not just school system. So that's okay? Okay. It's not gonna happen. All right, we'll just give up, and you have the information in front of you, so I'm just summarizing what's available, and obviously this is public information, and it can be available online if you don't want to put it up there. Okay, so in staff ethnicity information, same thing, it was about 81% white or Caucasian, about 10% black or African American, and then about 2% Hispanic or Latino. Okay, so let's talk about what your folks said to you in the surveys. We had about over 500 people, which is a great number, and what they said was actually remarkably consistent between the staff and the community. More so than we often see, but the first and most important thing for both the community and the staff understands how to provide safe environments for students and staff. Safety was the #1 concern in the survey of both of those groups. Number 2, for both of them, again, consistently was the same, understands how to effectively advocate for resources needed to operate schools. Again, very concerned about safety and resources, which are 2 huge issues for school districts across the country right now. Number 3 for the community was knows how to get staff, students, parents, and community to work together to help children learn. That was number 5 for the staff. Number 3 for the staff was communicates well with people of all races and socioeconomic status. that was number 4. So really in the same general area, both of those things were important. And then communicates well with all people of all races and socioeconomic status was number 4, as we said, for the community. And number 4 for the staff was has strong human relations or people skills. That was a big one for the staff. And then that was number 5 for the community, strong people skills. And then number 5 for the staff was knows how to get staff, students, parents to work together. So the same top 5 for both of these groups, a little bit different order, some of them, but those were the main things that your folks said were the most important. Number 6 for both groups was communicates well with all community groups, so communication was an issue, safety was an issue, and working with different groups in the community were important, and learning was an issue. Number 7 was has ideas and approaches for the community, has ideas and approaches to close the achievement gap. Again, that did not rate in the top 10 for staff, which was interesting. Should be accessible, number 8 for the community was should be accessible and respond to concerns in a timely fashion, that is number 10 for staff. School budget and finance was at number 7 for staff, and number 8 has been an effective classroom teacher. We see that often with staff, the desire to have people who understand what it's like to be in the classroom and to work with teachers, and the concern that background is important. Number 9 for the community was understands research-based school programs. Number 9 for staff was supports firm discipline in schools. And then number 10 for the community was budget and finance. And number 10 for the staff was accessible and responsive. So that just gives you some idea of the priorities of the folks that responded to the survey. Remember, this was a voluntary survey, so it's not a scientific survey. It was an opportunity for people who chose to respond to give you their comments and concerns as you look at the as you look at the applications. Remember, in North Carolina, it is confidential who applies to be superintendent. All that information is protected by law, and it's actually a criminal misdemeanor to share information of applicants. So what is important that you have done is to solicit information prior to getting any applications, so you know what the community and staff are interested in as you look and glean, look through the applications that will come in. As you remember, the deadline for the applications is July 7th, so we're still in the process of collecting applications. I'm gonna ask Sam Thorpe in my office to come and talk about the staff forums and the items that came out of the staff forums, and I'm gonna that.
Thank you, Allison. So the board had 2 community forums, one evening, June 4th, at the Media Center in Orange High, and another June 8th on Saturday in afternoon at Cedar Ridge High School. And we did a kitchen table conversation format where community members got to participate in groups and answer a series of questions. The questions talked about the skills, characteristics, personality traits that the community wanted to see in the next superintendent.
And that document is also in your material.
You've got a summary of this. I'm just explaining what this summarizes. It also talked about interview questions that community members would encourage the board to consider asking the superintendent candidates that apply, and then programs, initiatives, things in the school system that the community members would like to see continue under a new superintendent, and things maybe they'd like to see looked at and revisited. We had approximately 20 folks participate in the community forums, which may seem like a small amount, but that's actually a pretty good showing. We've certainly seen lower numbers in larger districts.
And also, it's important to know that when you have a survey available, a lot of times you see less people coming to the forums because they have an opportunity to comment anonymously and at home.
And the only thing I would point out is that the items that are in bold in each category were mentioned at more than one kitchen table. But that concludes the summary.
Okay, well, also, just really briefly, that's all right, the communications and public relations were very important, as well as leadership, organizational management, educational experience with diverse populations, and then personal characteristics like integrity. So those are the things that were really emphasized, especially important to the folks that came. I will say that at the end of the survey information that you have been handed out, there are comments, and as I said, we do not try to characterize the comments, but the board members have been given all of the comments unredacted, and they're available and they have had an opportunity to look at all of them. So, if anybody any questions about any of that? The next thing we're gonna do briefly then, if you don't have any further questions, is what the next exercise is, and I think we said this in our correspondence with you all, is for the board to set its own profile, based on informed by the information from the staff and students. This is an opportunity for you to say what you are looking for so your public can hear, and also so that you can use this information, and we will use it to develop a rating chart for you that isn't a binding chart, but just kind of we're looking for evidence of these things in the applications and in the interviews. And then also as a way to help us craft questions for you to ask of the candidates as they are being interviewed. So, that said, board members, I encourage you, this is your time to say what you think is important and for you to let your public know.
Okay.
Before we do that, and I wanna thank you so much for putting all of this together and sending it to us, can we briefly just talk about the demographics of the respondents to the survey, to the community survey in particular? So I'm glad that we added these questions and appreciative that we added the questions, because I think it really 89% of the community respondents were white, and 0.5% were Latino, and 8% were Black or African American, and those are not at all representative of our student demographics. The income, 57% of families were making over $100,000, which is not economically representative of our families. And so, I was actually when I was reading through all of the comments from the survey, I was so heartened to see so many of them talk about the importance of continuing our equity efforts, considering sort of the overall demographics and of the results. But I think what this says to me is that as we move forward with other things like school reassignment or whatever, like we just have to be very, very thoughtful about our outreach to ensure that we're actually hearing from a representative population of our school community. I think many of the comments in the surveys make a lot of sense to me as things we would look for in a superintendent, and I'm also just conscious of the fact that it's not super representative, so.
I will say that we did have a Spanish language survey that was available.
That's what it's
So we did post that and we advertised that. So it was, where there was an attempt, just a few responses.
What were the responses from the Spanish-speaking survey?
They are incorporated, I think, they might have been translated and incorporated.
It would be interesting to know.
How to distinguish those.
Mhm.
We can see what we can put together for you, we just didn't do that for purposes of this, because we're putting it all together. We actually got a few, but we didn't get a lot, obviously, just from the numbers that you see. But the language barrier, we tried to remove that by making it available. Okay, so, this is your time to talk about what is critical or important. And this isn't like we're gonna decide and agree, this is like all the board members comment on what they think is important, and we'll put all of those comments and concerns into a structure that will help you.
We want to call out or go around.
I think for the purpose of this, we could just call out, just don't talk over each other.
So one of the things that I was struck by in one of the community forums that I went to was several members of the community speaking about the importance of having a real track record of improving, track record of improving student performance and closing performance gaps, and a proven experience unifying diverse populations of students and parents, et cetera, proven commitment to equity sort of through like the actual actions that people have taken. So I would say proven results is important to me, and a proven experience, like demonstrated experience taking action towards equity is important.
Steve, just say.
I was just gonna say, what you've listed under communication skills, all of the below, I think those are all critically important. Every one of them.
I'd like to find someone who can inspire hope in our district.
Can I build on that too?
Yes, please.
One of the things in the comments on the survey was a number of people, there was a question about like, do you wanna continue the current vision of the district or something like that? And there were a number of comments that were like, I don't know what that is. And I think
Yes.
there's something about inspiring hope towards a direction with sort of a clear vision, being able to articulate that and bring people along.
Yep.
That's great.
Recruitment of a diverse workforce. Not only in the classroom, but in the administrative staff as well, more diversity.
And can we add support
Yeah,
them
yeah, yeah,
also?
yeah.
Well, this is similar to what Sarah said, but I always feel strongly about experienced leadership. It's one thing to have a leader, but it's another thing to have an experienced leadership. So I think that's important. And I mean experience in the role of superintendent.
I'd like to find someone who has a high level understanding of the budget and resource opportunities.
And I hope we can work school safety concerns in there. We live in a crazy world, crazy time. It's not what it was years ago.
Yeah, that was the number one concern, was that asked you.
I think also the operating facilities, construction, we have a lot of aging buildings, we have a lot of issues with the current facilities we have.
One thing I was noticing in the survey comments, I was sort of reading between the lines, it wasn't necessarily specific things people were asking
Yeah.
about, it was just sort of the tone with which some of the comments were written, which I think, I'm very glad people were, it was anonymous. There just seemed to be, for some people, just a general sort of like lack of trust of us, of, you know,
Yeah.
of the system, and I think that the communication skills piece, like the angle on that I would put is like, skilled at building trust across divides, you know?
And I think that goes by lead by example as well, because that came up
part of
many
it.
times, yeah.
That part of how you do that is leading by
Exactly.
example,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
being very present and walking the talk, I guess, yeah. Yeah,
And that was stated actually in one of, CMC, yeah. People, they said that especially at the, input session over at Cedar Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people can talk about something, but they don't actually do it. You know, it's one thing to talk about equity, it's another thing to actually.
One of the things I wrote was finding someone who's fearless about leading equity work in a divided political district.
Community engagement.
Yeah, just to add on the fearless about leading equity work, I think there was a theme at one of the community forums just around like courage in general, just sort of courageous leadership and like
Yeah.
being the one to step out there and.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody said it yet, but hopefully they'll have some experience in redistricting.
Experience in the
Yes.
And can't hit enough on closing her achievement gap.
Is that most of it? Is there anything else you guys feel needs to be on the list? It's a gracious plenty.
Yeah.
That'd be a
They would
perfect
get a gold,
superintendent,
they'd get a gold star if they also spoke Spanish.
So bilingual.
Yes.
Gold star.
Gold star, that's the bonus point.
So usually at the end of these, and this is a great list of wonderful characteristics, and they usually end up by saying, it feels like, the person that we want is somebody who walks on water. And I don't know if he's available, the one that did, but, you know, that's what really you want, is somebody who's really just an exemplary leader. And, so we're looking forward to trying to help you find someone like that. We have been working hard to advertise the position and to actively recruit folks that might be interested. So we're excited about, hopefully you'll find a great pool, but as I've said before, we're with you until you find who you want, we don't want you to compromise, unless you find like that it's somebody that you really want, so. Anyway, anything else? I would just like to take a point of privilege to congratulate Dr. Ward on his moving on and for his good service, and Patricia, who I've known
Thanks, Alice.
forever and a day, and it's been a joy to work with both of you, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you in some other capacity or some other time.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a little more space in the room.
Thanks, Allison, see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Sam.
All right, up next, we have the Career and Technical Education Report.
I apologize that you are not gonna see this on the screen. Board members, I will, ask you if you have your devices, that you pull up the presentation. We seem to be having some technical difficulty tonight with our, TVs, our projector screens. And I ask you guys to take a look at it. It's on public knowledge. Great pictures. Tonight's presentation is on the career and technical education here in Orange County Schools. I'm Shannon Braxton, I'm the Director of Career Technical Education and the Arts of Orange County Schools. Tonight is about career and technical ed. And the presentation that the board members have in front of them is 19 slides of pictures. Because tonight I want to showcase the students that we serve. And looking at their faces, seeing them in action is what career technical education is all about.
Can I interrupt you? I just want you and everybody to know that I'm having trouble getting on.
Aww.
It's locked me out. Sarah can't get on. Is anybody else on?
I'm
I'm
on.
on.
I'm on.
Well,
You
can
don't
bless
see your
that it's on.
pictures?
Yeah,
Do you see the pictures?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's
I'm
come
on.
Oh,
on.
you're on, you're
I'm
on.
on.
Oh, you're on.
It just came on.
It came on, it's just,
I'm good now.
you just had to voice the concern.
Maybe it was a higher power.
Yes, you voiced the concern.
It could have been a higher power that turned it on, with all due respect to our technology director.
Just a little patience.
Yeah, so how, can you see them?
yes, we can see that.
Yes,
Please,
ma'am.
thank you. I'm just honored to be able to represent the 2,289 middle school students and the 3,010 high school students that are enrolled in 8 program areas at our 1 alternative school, our 2 high schools, and our 3 middle schools, led by our 39 staff members and 2 support staff. And so the pictures really highlight that work. The second slide is just a list of highlights. It's showcasing that it's 5,299 engaged students with hands-on, skill-based curriculum, career technical student organizations, internships, future apprenticeships, Orange County Schools' first career signing event, industry credentials, partnership development with businesses. Agriculture courses are offered at both high schools, and we have exploring biotechnology in 2 of our middle schools. 5 Orange High School FFA students placed first place at the state events and will be competing at the national competition in livestock judging in October. 8 Cedar Ridge FFA students were state event competitors. Both high schools honored their FFA and agricultural students at dinner awards night, and they were both great events. Just last week at the FFA state events in Raleigh, Orange High School graduate Milosh McAdoo was elected as the state VP at the Treasurer Station. Business, finance, and informational technology classes are at both high schools, and there are 3 business computer classes offered at all 3 middle schools. 37 students earned Microsoft certifications this spring at Orange High School. 6 Orange High School FBLA students returned from state competition with 3 top 10 awards. And 3 Cedar Ridge FBLA students participated in state competition, coming home with 3 top 10 awards. 11 middle school students and 43 high school students were awarded EverFi financial literacy certification, and 6 Cedar Ridge High School students that were divided into 2 teams of 3 students. They qualified at regional events in personal finance, and they actually represented Orange County schools at the state championships at the Federal Reserve Bank in Charlotte. Family Consumer Sciences is offered at both high schools and at AL Standback with Exploring Family Consumer Sciences. 1 student at Cedar Ridge earned their Serve Safe National Restaurant Safety and Sanitation, and a student at Orange High School in Foods 2 interned at Aramark in Chapel Hill, and on May 12th, she actually signed to go to work with them full-time as a prep chef. And in July, our foods teacher at Cedar Ridge High School and our family consumer science teacher at A.L. Standback are offering a culinary camp for 2 weeks for middle school students. Health Sciences is offered in part of the biotechnology program at Cedar Ridge, at CW Stanford and at Gravelly Hills, and it's offered at Cedar Ridge High School as a high school course. 10 students from Cedar Ridge sat for their CNA exams. 1 additional student from Cedar Ridge and 5 students from Orange High School took this course at Durham Tech with Career College Promise, or CCP, and they also took their CNA exams, and we're waiting on their results. I look forward to give you those. We'll add to that list that I just passed around. Last board meeting, you heard from the marketing program at Orange High School, but just let me highlight, the virtual enterprise teacher and the students were recognized, and they earned the 3rd place for website design at their trade show. They received a donation from the Hillsborough Chamber, and they also sponsored a Mother's Day tea at the Burwell School. And those 7 of the virtual enterprise students attended the International Youth Business Summit in New York, where they placed top 10 in 3 separate events.
Wow.
Technology, Engineering, and Design Project Lead the Way is offered at all 3 middle schools, and they offer coursework in 3 areas: automation and robotics, design and modeling, and flight and space. And Orange High School, starting August, is gonna have their first cohort of students in their Orange Engineering and Design Academy, and I'm really excited about that. Those students are gonna have an opportunity to build teamwork and camaraderie. They're gonna have a summer camp opportunity through STEM that's gonna bring some of those students together, as well as the staff that's going to be teaching that Project Lead the Way at Orange High School. Trade and Industrial is offered at both high schools, and they're very active, and trade and industrial courses are very, very diverse. Cedar Ridge has a Skills USA program, and they went to state competition, and they came back with 4 awards, a first, a second, a fourth, and a top 10. Those Skills USA students at Cedar Ridge are those students that you saw that did the 2 plaques this evening. 2 Cedar Ridge students next week will be representing Orange County schools in Las Vegas at the Association of Woodworking and Finishing Suppliers. They have 3 projects that are going to be in fresh wood. 12 public safety students at Orange High School got all 4 NIM certifications. The Fire Technology Academy at Orange High School, only in its 2nd year, is now offering all 3 fire tech classes. And through Career College Promise at ACC, 1 Orange High School student took cosmetology, and she actually placed in the state competition at Skills USA. We just completed at Orange High School, in collaboration with Habitat for Humanity, the 10th project house, and the plans are already laid to start that 11th house on August 26th with the next group of construction students. Videography is at Cedar Ridge High School, and it's taught by an ACC instructor, and it's on site at Cedar Ridge. That teacher and student received a grant from 360 Media for a 360 camera, tripod, and other video recording equipment. The proposal is for a grant that had them produce a video on the intersection between traditional farming and progressive farm-to-table methods. The video was a co-curricular lesson with the agricultural department at Cedar Ridge, and if you haven't seen it, it's called Around the Same Table. It's on YouTube. It's also on the videography classes Facebook page. It really is a pretty awesome video to watch with the 360 technology of that camera equipment. That program is also being recognized in Washington, D.C. at the 2019 National Association of Media Literacy on their program called 3 Seasons, The Evolution of Wolf TV. I wish you could see the picture of this next slide. Board members, you have it in front of you, but community members, I wish you could see it as well. In the picture, let me just describe it for those of you that can't see it, are 2 students. This was sent to me via email after they were awarded these certificates. So Melinda Forns, the Curriculum and Instruction Management Coordinator for CTE, pulled these students and made certificates, took them, delivered them to their teacher. Teachers passed them out, and this was a picture snapped by a teacher because we teach in career technical ed all core skills. Core skills are embedded in all career technical ed courses, but CTE's had a major emphasis on literacy. And this year, CTE implemented a 3-day coaching cycle with the staff, focusing on before, during, and after instructional reading strategies. 1,927 CTE students, both middle and high school students, showed a Lexile growth of over the school year. 222 of those students had a Lexile growth of 150 plus points, and statistics show that average high school students only grow 25 Lexile points in a school year. So we were obviously very excited. In the picture, Omar, he grew 151 points this past school year, and Yoselin grew 172 points. And we also want to note that the Lexile growth was across all students in all program areas of career technical ed, whether they were exceptional children, EL, or honor students. We saw Lexile growth in 1,927 students. Internships between both Cedar Ridge and Orange. We had 5 interns this spring semester. The wonderful thing about interns is that students are out working on the job. They're getting real work experience and developing their soft skills. And their individual presentations in May that I got to be a part of were very inspiring. So I hope you found at your spot when you walked in today a little newspaper clipping. I'm sorry I took the liberty to turn the page just so that it was right in front of you. But Orange County Schools just had our first career signing event. And I just wanted to make sure I took a moment to highlight that in the newspaper. It was on the back side of the front cover. I hope that you will take the opportunity to read it if you have not. This was in partnership with the Hillsborough Chamber. It was a fabulous event celebrating students that are changing the conversation about career paths by signing to go directly into careers. Alyssa Baldwin from Orange High School served as an intern at Aramark or Carolina Dining, and they have signed her to become a prep chef. So she started work the Monday after graduation. Max Boger from Cedar Ridge has been working at Capital Ford of Hillsborough as an intern, and then they just hired him full-time, and he is going to become a quick lane service technician. The lady from Capital Ford says he's probably going to be the youngest certified quick lane service technician, as they'll send him to school right away. Jonah Jimenez, Wesley Winston, Jay Taylor, and Daniel Rath are 4 Orange High School students that were identified through the construction class with Mr. Thurman, and they were awarded Dominion Energy internships, and they're going to get to rotate between the construction and maintenance department and the service department. Great opportunity for those 4 gentlemen. And then Chris Rory and Hunter Pettiford are beginning summer internships with Hoofbeat Farm and Murray Landscape Maintenance and Horticultural Services. So great opportunity for that. I don't want to, those were the ones that were in the paper, and very exciting. It was an awesome event. We hope that we have this again in the future. But I also want to take a minute to recognize that we do have a Cedar Ridge student who started a pre-apprenticeship program with NC TAP. He is already working with AccuFab this summer and taking classes at Wake Tech. And the great thing about career technical ed is that we do not lose contact with our students after graduation. One of our students that came through the Fire Tech program, a 2018 graduate, was recognized as a Captain's Choice Award with Central Carolina Fire Academy number 10. And we had a 2018 Cedar Ridge graduate from the Nursing Fundamentals program with her CNA license or certifications. And she's just recently been hired at Duke University Hospital. So it's real exciting. Last board meeting, we had just a little bit of conversation about the navigator, so I put a slide there to let you know that again, through the Hillsborough Chamber, we've been reaching out to businesses. We're working diligently to inform businesses about this program because all teachers have access to this through our single sign-in NC Ed Cloud. Navigator comes from the North Carolina Business Committee for Education, which is part of the governor's office. And we just want to make sure that we get as many businesses on there to sign up to either be a guest speaker or to come in, join us for a career or job fair or offer an internship, or maybe they want to sign up for job shadowing. Or what I'm really hoping for is that they'll take their device and do a little video of in the day on the life of on my job and post it. Then we can watch it and students can learn. And that really helps our students to build those skills. So any help you can spread about this opportunity, you all have my contact information. You can send them my way. We can get them signed up with the Navigator system. Career exploration begins as early as elementary school. We have a great event for our 4th and 5th graders where we collaborate with local businesses for a hands-on career exploration fair. I've been privileged to work very closely with Durham Tech since coming on as your Career Technical Ed Director. And just recently, through the Career Coach Grant, we were able to get some funds to purchase STEM elementary school books. So 7 copies of 6 different children's books on STEM jobs were purchased with this grant funding. The books are being used at the elementary STEM camp that was last week and this week. And at the end of the camp, a copy of each of those 6 books will be donated to each of the 7 elementary schools for their library. We were also able to get 4-year plan, SMART goals, and booklets about how to get the most out of your middle school. We were able to purchase these resources. We'll be sharing those with all of our 8th graders. Apprenticeship Orange is out there. It's on the table. Since I began this job in January, I've worked to facilitate lots of conversation on apprenticeship opportunities, and those opportunities are for Orange County schools with jobs in Orange County. We've had collaborative meetings with Chapel Hill Carball Schools, Durham Tech, Apprenticeship NC, Durham Public Schools, and local businesses. We have had lots and lots of conversations, lots and lots of meetings, so I ask you to stay tuned, see what happens next. Maybe the next time I come here, I will present on what those opportunities will entail. You do see there pictures, board members, of some business folks here in our area in Orange County working. The last slide is a handout that I passed to you, an infographics, 2 sides. Probably the most exciting thing about career technical education is the ability that we have to offer high school students workplace, industry recognized credentials and certifications. Last year, if you still have your infographic, we awarded 872 credentials and certifications. You notice tonight we have 975, and we're still waiting on those CNA exam results to come in. Career Technical Ed's focus is on building skills that last a lifetime and providing opportunities for high school students to take industry recognized credentials and certifications while they are a high school student that allows them to use that information when applying for employment or enrolling in post-secondary education is absolutely one of the best ways that we can help students in Orange County have an advantage over students applying for the same opportunity. So tonight it's been a pleasure to highlight some of the students, some of the teachers, and some of the accomplishments since January of 2019.
Well, what I wanted to say, thank you for all that you do and will continue to do. I want to say specifically that I appreciate you and your staff's tweets, because that is how I keep up with because everything that you've said, you've tweeted it already, and I figured out how to retweet. I know it's not hard, of course she's laughing because it's easy, but you know, when you're past.
But you figured it out, and you
when
got
you're
it,
past
right?
60, you're a little slow. So, but anyway, yeah, I know how to do it, And so I've retweeted some of them, and that's how I know about everything that you're doing. So that's good that you're out there on Twitter and you're highlighting all of your successes. So thank you.
I will pass that along to Melinda Forns. I will share with you very quickly that she did a little Twitter challenge with our career technical ed teachers to get them to create accounts. And we had the Project Lead the Way did these little magnets that say I am CTE with the 3D printer, and the certificate was a tweetment. They were certified with a tweetment. Okay, that was supposed to be funny.
It is fun. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, it's really cute.
And for those of us who don't tweet.
I've got you a printed copy of everything I just said.
I'm good, you know, I like.
You got it?
lots of pictures.
Perfect.
I just wanted to thank you. I want to thank Dr. Wirt for bringing forth your name to fill this position. You have brought more enthusiasm to the CTE program, formerly known as vocational education, okay, than anybody has in my 43 years at this school system. It's exciting. You smile, you got positive stuff to report, you're everywhere. You seem to have boundless energy, and I think that's a wonderful skill set and trait that you have. And I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a dynamite job.
It's a pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I just wanna echo that too and just call out a couple of things that I'm so excited to see about in here. I know that this is the first year of using the Achieve 3000 to boost the literacy.
Very specifically in CTE. Now, it has been here previously,
Yeah,
right? But we've been
yeah.
very conscious of using that Achieve 3000, and then doing that coaching cycle.
That's just excellent. I mean, being able to see those results just in the very first year, I'm very excited about what that could mean over time for students, year after year, being able to see those increases. And then I'm just excited to hear more about the apprenticeship programs.
Like she
Stay tuned.
said, hopefully in the next couple months you'll hear more about
Yeah,
that.
stay tuned, right?
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I did want to say one
Oh.
thing, is that I greatly appreciate the newsletters, volume 1 and
Volume
issue 2.
I believe that came from student achievement, the request from Dr. Halkiotis for a report of the people and had this in print. My thing is to get that out to businesses, governmental places, and push pin it up on the bulletin boards. And we'll work through that to make sure that we do that properly.
One other thing that I noticed was during the graduation, you know, we're all looking at the students and what they're going to do, and it's eye-opening the number of kids that are going to be going to a community college or directly in employment, and knowing that we have these items that they can take advantage of and be career ready for those that want to go directly into employment. And you know, we appreciate all your energy. It's cascading. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Triangle Community Foundation gift.
So tonight before you is a request for the board to approve and accept an annual perpetual endowment gift from the school district, to the school district from the Triangle Community Foundation on behalf of the Justin Nutter Book Fund. The donor is Miss Betsy Parker, who wishes to establish a permanent endowment to provide literacy materials for elementary school students across all 7 of our elementary schools. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's it.
Code of Conduct timeline.
Everybody able to pull up the document on their device? If not, it's okay, I have a few copies, but I thought I would share with these folks as well, so.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Got it? Okay.
Yes.
Everybody else is good?
Yeah.
Divine intervention has helped out.
Several equity task force has those.
good evening, and we are here to just kind of go over the timeline for the Orange County Code of Conduct thus far. First, I'd like, if there are any Equity Task Force members, any cabinet members, any parents or staff members that have assisted with the Code of Conduct thus far, we'd like for you to please stand so we can recognize you. And we just wanna say thank you, and there's some standing outside. We just wanna say thank you so much for your hard work and dedication. We have been working on this and meeting, and so we really want to say thank you for your commitment to this work. Right now, we want to highlight the timeline that we have had to revise and talk through that. So if you are looking at the form, the sheet that Michelle handed out, it talks about spring 2018 through the summer of 2018. There was work with superintendents, cabinet, principals, district teams, and the Equity Task Force on trying to get the code work off the ground. Shortly thereafter, in the summer from 2018 till March, we worked with the Equity Task Force on the definition of equity and an introduction. We've worked with stakeholders and focus groups, and we've received community feedback. Between April 2019, well, in April of this year, we received our first draft, and we provided that to the principals, the district MTSS team, cabinet members, the Equity Task Force members for an initial review. And from that review, we determined that we wanted to make this Orange County. So we needed to slow down what we were doing and do some revisions based on the feedback that we got. And we also wanted to make sure that it aligned to our MTSS work. So we have looked at how we can delay the rollout because we don't want to be fast and it not be Orange Counties, right? So we have engaging schools assisting us with this, and they've given us, this is a draft, but now we have to make that be what Orange County Schools wants it to be. So we want it right, we want it done, and we don't want it done right, we don't want it done and done fast. So between May and June, we have begun the process of rewriting based upon feedback from stakeholder groups and looking at further review. From July 2019 to September of 2019, we will be preparing our final draft, bringing that to the community, the board, and staff for feedback and development of an addendum of the current code for the first semester and approval by the board in August of this year, and then attorney approval as well, looking at moving forward.
Alright, so if you turn to the next page, for those of you that have a paper copy, if you flip it over, we just want to talk a little bit about professional learning. So some of the benefit of us taking a little bit longer to get this in place is that we can make this the way we want it to, and we'll be able to ensure that it does what we want it to do. However, it is difficult just to lift this in the middle of the year, right? So we've had a lot of conversation in the Equity Task Force being a part of that, talking about what can we do in professional learning to ensure that we have those tenets in place before we start the school year. So if you'll look under summer 2019, we are actually scheduled for next week of the 26th. We have, since this work has begun, initiated a administrative discipline committee to look at our practices inside our schools to make sure we're more in alignment, we're paying attention to what we're actually doing there. In addition to that, we will have a student support team that will be working with us to create some practices and procedures that we'll put in place to ensure that we're supporting kids as we're initiating that. In addition to that, as we get into the week of August, just before teachers come back, we have set aside some monies to be able to provide some training for our bus drivers, child nutrition workers, teacher assistants, any of those classified personnel that will be working with our staff, so that we will go through the tenets of the code and we'll talk about the introduction portion, which our Equity Task Force has worked on with regards to the equity portion of the document. We will also do a turnkey training for all schools, August 21 and 22. That will be a half-day training so that all of our schools will receive the same initiation at the very beginning of the school year. Over the fall, we will finalize, get it in, get everything finalized in appropriate form. We will begin the process of printing, and of course, it will go to attorney for review, so that we can have all those things in place before we actually launch in December, or excuse me, in January. Any questions?
So what'll happen in August is there'll be an addendum to so the current code of conduct will be in place in the first half of the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What, the addendum, like what will that?
So we asked that question earlier, of a couple of other stakeholders. What we're wanting to do and what the task force asked for was that we could really create a statement effectively that we could attach. So for example, an InfoSnap is where the code of conduct is now, unless you get a paper copy, we could do the same. But it would just initiate by saying, we are moving towards a more restorative code of conduct, and this is what it will look like in the January of the 2020 school year, so that
So people have a heads up.
they have a heads up and they know that the work is what we wanna have coming. So,
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I didn't-
there will be specific, tenets within that we will address, like certain, codes of conduct or behaviors that we see high risk, and we will address those in that statement as well. So those will be the beginning of how we will kind of move into the new code.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for listening clearly and carefully when we had all of the school improvement plans presented months ago. It was evident that the elementary schools in particular, a significant number of children were being either suspended or put in some kind of temporary holding situation because of problems on buses. And I think you heard very clearly the board said, we need to do something about this. Because if you're not training bus drivers in restorative practices, then the whole thing is a waste of time. So I appreciate the fact that you're starting out this summer, okay, because that work needs to happen. And I'm also gonna say this. There was a disconnect at the orientation program we have, this convocation, whatever you wanna call it. That there needs to be a higher level of sensitivity instilled in transportation folks. And I don't say that in a critical way. Kids spend a significant amount of time each day on a bus, coming to school, going home. The opportunity to get in trouble becomes significant for seemingly silly things. And the greater understanding you can inculcate in bus drivers, the stronger we're gonna be as a system. When principals tell you they really don't have control over that, the kids are just, either they call the bus garage and tell them, come and pick this kid up, the bus turns around, inconveniences parents and everybody else. You gotta do something about this. So I appreciate the fact that you're talking about bus drivers, child nutrition workers, teacher assistants, but especially the bus drivers. They need the help. It's a difficult world. Some people are operating on how we used to do business 40 years ago. Sit down, be quiet, and I'm driving the bus. It doesn't happen that way anymore. It doesn't happen in parents' automobiles. I was with 4 grandkids today, and I had to raise my voice several times, and I wasn't driving either. So anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I have 2 other thoughts. One is on and they both are like raised by this superintendent's report. So one of them is final draft prepared for community and staff feedback. So were you all here when we were talking about the superintendent survey and the demographics of the community responses to that? So I think it's important to me as a board member that when we are getting feedback from the community that we figure out some new ways of reaching out to a representative
agreed.
body of our community.
Some of our conversation so far has been that we would go to community centers, we would identify some locations, but we will
Awesome.
certainly be supportive of whatever is necessary there.
Great, awesome. The second thing, what was there? I saw this like interesting sort of trend in some of the feedback from staff members and the things that they prioritize, talking about like the need for strict discipline, and many of the comments on the staff survey was about the need for more, better discipline. And I didn't know what that meant I just was like, oh, this is interesting, that's coming up a lot. And so I wasn't sure what that was about. I don't know if you all have thoughts about what that is about, or whether it might be related to.
So we have been problem solving that, and I think that's a conversation that's probably been in schools for a very long time, but I can say that part of this work, as I just mentioned, we have created a discipline committee that is made up of administrators as well as our support staff. We are seeking to look at what our data is telling us, right? How frequently is a student referred from a particular teacher's classroom? Why are they referred? Does it happen because it's classroom behavior, or does it happen in the hallway? Or could it be that it's happening in transition, maybe when the kids are in the cafeteria? So that we can understand the data better, and then we can also try to put things in place to be preventative, of course, is ultimately our goal. With regards to teachers, we also wanna talk about, a lot of times teachers wanna talk about consistency. How do we create that consistent model so that we are supporting students and providing what is fair and equitable to kids across the board?
Right, and I would say that, a lot of the professional development is around that mind shift, right? Changing that mindset around this strict, it's gotta be this, and how do we figure out what's going on with students, and then figure out how can we support them in whatever they're dealing with, right? And helping teachers to understand that.
Anybody else? I just have one additional question. How will mental health services fold into this? I know that, restorative practices are great, but sometimes it needs to extend to families and help there. Are y'all going to be, you don't need to give me a detailed explanation, but are y'all folding that in, or where would this fit in with that discussion?
So as we begin this, the way we're looking at it is that the discipline would start with student support services. And not that they are issuing discipline, but they are having a conversation with students to try to figure out what's going on, what may be causing that behavior, and if they find that this is something that needs further conversation with someone in the mental health world, then a referral can still happen, because we do still have school-based mental health in our schools. So that's where we will begin with that.
The goal is to support, right? That's what we wanna do, is to support kids, and we want orderly classrooms, but we wanna support students at the end.
Thank you. All right, thank y'all. Okay. All right, so this is the, budget update. We do have one person signed up for public comment, but we'll wait till after the presentation, allow them to speak, and then have board conversations afterwards.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This evening, what I intend to do is kind of give you an update in regards to the budget. On June the 18th, the county commissioners approved their budget, which was to provide funding to the school districts at $4,352.25 per pupil, which is a $187.25 increase over what we received last fiscal year. We had requested a total of $273 per pupil increase. Therefore, as a result, for discussion or for your input this evening, based upon discussions that we've already had, is a recommendation of what to fund with the per pupil funding that we received from the county to this point. Our continuation budget, we needed roughly $34.9 million in order to fund continuation. Based upon what the commissioners have given us right now, it's a total of $35.4 million. That's an extra $528,000 that we can apply towards expansion initiatives. Based upon our discussions, the recommendation, the first item would be the equity initiative for professional development. In addition to the $260,000 that the commissioners funded us and Chapel Hill outside of the per pupil funding, additional funds to support professional development as well as to create an operating budget for the new equity director that would account for $135,000 of the extra funds available. The tuition assistance program, be able to grow our own teachers and provide tuition assistance to those who are interested in becoming teachers. Reinstate the first 5 work days for our teacher assistants. To add a literacy facilitator and hire 2 additional guidance counselors for our largest elementary schools, New Hope and Cameron Park Elementary. Those initiative items there would make up the $528,000 that we have available above what we need for continuation budget. Is there any questions?
Well, before we do that, we do have a public comment, so I just need to read the charge for work sessions. All right, the Board of Education is elected representative body of the school district, wishes to provide a forum for citizens to address the board with public comments to provide the opportunity for input while conducting a orderly meeting. Individuals or group may be heard by the board in accordance with this policy. Limited time for public comment will follow each work session item. Comment will be restricted to the topic of each work session item. The total duration of public comment at a work session may not exceed 1 hour. A person wishing to address the board on a work session agenda item for the meeting must sign up prior to the board's work session by signing his or her name, address, and the agenda item on which he or she wishes to speak. The board chair will recognize the speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. When the 3 minutes ends, the speaker must stop speaking immediately. Yielding time to another speaker will not be permitted. The board will not have a discussion with any speaker. No profanity or vulgar language will be permitted or personal abuse against any person. The board vests in its chair and other presiding officers authority to terminate the remarks of any individual when he or she does not adhere to the rules established above. Matters involving specific employees are protected under state law, and matters relating to specific students are protected under both state and federal law. Public comment should not address any specific confidential student or personnel matter. Complaints concerning any specific employee or students are not permissible during public comment. If you wish to address a matter that may require identifying either a student or an employee, please first direct your inquiry to the superintendent for assistance on the process to address your concern. Additionally, if there are matters that you wish to present to or give to the board, please hand those items to our Chief Communications Officer, and he will deliver those items to the board. Citizens may not interrupt, disturb, disrupt a Board of Education meeting and will be subject to provisions of General Statute 143-318.17. Nothing in this policy shall prevent the board from limiting public comment at any board meeting. With that, we have Phyllis Worsley-Ascott.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I am glad to hear that we got extra money. And there's some things that we want you all to consider with the extras that you have. I stand tonight representing a group of clergy and religious leaders of Northern Orange County. I stand to say that we are genuinely concerned about the direction of the school system. Some of us have made phone calls, some of us have sent emails, and some of us have met with you about our concerns. But at this time, we decided to leave our respective corners and come together to put our faith in action as we articulate our concerns. In the past, we have admired the civility shared in Orange County schools and the efforts of school leaders to do their best by all students. Although falling short in some areas, but the effort to try to become better was present. Now, we are concerned that the interactions and behaviors that we see in our nation has infected our schools, to the point that we question if you still desire for our schools to be the first choice for all families. When looking at your engagement with each other, when hearing about the continuous issues happening within the schools, when reflecting on your inability to make a substantial difference in the racial and ethnic disparities, and as we face the redistricting process, we felt that it was necessary to stand and to ask that you recommit to educating all students and to creating a good work environment for all staff. It is our hope that you will model the leadership that you expect to see in the schools. We hope that you will offer strong incentives to hire teachers of color and to support them once they get here. We hope that you will hire bilingual support staff to be available to assist families who enter the schools and the different service areas. We hope that you will build a safety plan where all staff know how to identify and evaluate serious concerns and when to notify us. And we hope that you would demonstrate a commitment to reducing all disparities. Finally, it is because we too believe in the vision of Orange County Schools that we expect you to do better. We expect Orange County Schools to be a leader in education, in a place where we can proudly proclaim that we have made you our first choice. We thank you for listening, and we will gladly assist whenever possible to help you achieve these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. H, you had a
Yeah, so these folks in Raleigh are still meeting,
Correct.
the legislators. What do we do if they come up with some unexpected, non-funded mandates that we have to incorporate into our school system? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but, you know, I don't feel comfortable with the decision-making that's going on over there, by the people who run it right now. And it's not the governor, I feel comfortable with him. It's not our legislative delegation, I think they're great. I'm talking about the power people over there that are making decisions that could possibly impact our budget. Are there any new updates that you, Dr. Wirt, or you, Rhonda, can bring us up to speed? Or is this gonna be a throw of the dice until we see what happens in Raleigh?
Based upon the information that I've seen at this point in time, it looks like that they plan to have a budget to the governor sometime this week. Based upon what I've read, which I'm sure is what you have read as well, that I think Medicaid and what's in the budget in regards to that is going to probably prevent us from having an approved budget by June the 30th. Which in that case, you know, there is legislation in place that we would continue operating based upon the previous year's funding for our state and federal programs. When we built the budget, we built it with what we felt like was a very good estimation, a little bit of room for whatever our legislators may do in regards, in particular, to our benefit and salaries increases. We had built the budget based upon 5% for teachers and 3% for classified staff. Based upon what you've seen at this point in time, you know that the legislators are coming in a little bit lower than that. It's a luck of the draw. You know, at this point in time, we're not getting very much input from anyone in Raleigh in regards to what the direction is, other than what we've seen in the media.
Thank you.
Worst case scenario is we would have to use fund balance.
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
I think one of our greatest concerns right now, Dr. H, is, which you probably read in the media, our state superintendent's decision to go in a very different direction with assessments at kindergarten through third grade with how we measure literacy. There's quite a bit of resistance to that in the state right now. There are some of the larger districts that it's our understanding that are just gonna flat out refuse to implement the new program that was signed on by our state superintendent, and the state board is actually gonna revisit the contract. I think part of our concern is that if we refuse to use iStation because we don't believe it provides us the same level of data and support that we've had with M-Class, that we may be forced to purchase M-Class on our own like other systems are doing. Something that our teachers have worked hard over 4 or 5 years to implement. We've bought additional resources, we've paid for additional professional development. So really every district in the state is in a very similar boat, but some of the larger districts are leading the charge on resistance to implementation right now, which may help some of us in the smaller district spot, so. But that's a concern we have.
Thank you.
Ms. Stevens?
No, we're quiet here, we need to move forward, we can't sit on an item here. So, Rhonda and Todd, I appreciate the work that you've done to categorize this, and I am in favor of, this recommendation, and this is an action item. So I move to,
It's listed not as an
It
action.
says
It's
no.
not,
well,
it's
no,
not.
no,
The wording at the bottom is misleading.
cause it says yes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell when I was reading.
Yeah,
Right.
you
So
are both correct.
I appreciate your hard work, and, I totally accept and agree with what you've done, that you
Amen.
presented.
So I'm in favor of the recommendations too, and my question is if we're not going to have a finalized budget possibly by the end of the month, what's gonna happen to HES and their TAs for the first 5 days of school?
We passed, at the last board meeting, there was a continuation budget that was
Okay.
passed.
Okay.
We should be all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't here, I apologize, I've read, but
Sorry.
it slipped my mind.
Would
Yeah,
the
use that
continuation
excuse.
budget include those
Yeah.
items since it wasn't
Use
part of
that
last
excuse.
year's?
Right, those 5, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're
Just wanna
good,
make sure.
right,
We're good.
okay, very
Thanks.
good, thank you.
Just one other question following on to that. So part of the tuition assistance did include incentive bonuses for attracting some of the teachers. So we would not engage that until we have final budget. So the Grow Your Own, we put in, I think, 2K signing bonuses for AC teachers to attract. So that we would not allow until after we get the final budget.
Final budget would be
Okay.
correct.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
if I can, you're advertising that now for signing those bonuses, I think, are you? And then, so, are we? I mean, that was the plan, and if we're, you can't take it back. I'm just
asking.
trying to force a discussion on it.
Do you know for sure?
So I think what I could say without Rhonda too far from her to kick me under the table is that given the number of vacancies we have right now and the size of the signing bonus, I think that's something that we can take care of until we get a finalized budget.
Great.
Fair enough, Rhonda?
I see the kicking, so.
All
Catch
right.
back on that one.
Thanks.
Yeah, all right.
Any other questions, comments? All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Nick's around here somewhere.
custodial supervisor repurpose
There he is.
position.
There they
He's
are.
back.
Good evening. Good evening.
Just a little bit.
I'm sorry?
It's all right.
Give him just a moment, just give him a moment.
Well, I know it wasn't
Everybody
something
wanted to
else.
hear what you had to say.
Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. It's not you. It's not you.
Clean the room out, didn't we?
Y'all know how to clear a room after me.
Well, that's maintenance, we're good at cleaning up stuff, aren't we?
I said okay to encore.
So we're here with you tonight to talk about custodial supervisor repurpose of a position. And basically what we're looking at is repurposing of a maintenance position to a custodial supervisor for our district. And a couple of goals that are listed there on the abstract, you've seen those, I'm sure, providing for safe and sustainable operations and well-maintained facilities, things that are very critical to Roger and I and to our staff. And we are also want to be accountable for management of our resources. And this is one of our biggest resources, is our assets of our buildings. So our purpose is to reconsider, is to repurpose a vacant position that we currently have for a groundskeeper, a machine operator, and to turn this position into a custodial supervisor. So the background for this, Dr. Henry worked on this before he left out of town for a few days, and he has listed that we've included the original expansion budget for fiscal year of 2020. Was a request for a custodial supervisor, and the purpose of this position is to provide managerial support and professional development to Orange County Schools staff, local custodial staff, to serve as a liaison between the district and between our external custodial services provider. So to provide oversight and monitoring and to meet standards for all custodial services that are provided in the district, and to enable other district leaders the ability to focus on large bond projects and capital improvement plan projects that are occurring throughout our district. So that's a pretty large mouthful of what we're hoping this person can help us do for our district. We currently have a machine operator, a groundskeeper. That position has been vacant for a little while. And the grounds maintenance contract that we approved at the last board meeting back in the 1st of June will provide coverage for our schools through the district. We do still have groundskeepers on the maintenance staff, and they will be providing services for several of our buildings. For example, the annex or community school relations, campuses away from, buildings away from our campuses. But we will still be mowing a couple of our schools. And we did that in a control for budget. Once we worked through the bidding process with the the grounds vendor, we were able to come up with what we felt was an equitable budget for maintenance and for mowing. So with that vendor in place, we feel that we'll be okay with one less grounds employee for us currently. So the financial impact to the district is at the bottom here, and to repurpose this position, it would be approximately an additional $10,000 to the 2020 budget. So, bringing that before the board tonight.
It's not a specific person, it's the position, right?
That is
Right.
correct.
Okay.
It is the position, yes, sir.
Dr. Rich?
So do you have the 10,000 within your existing budget?
Dr. Henry tells me that it is accommodated in the 20.
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure. I thought I read that in there.
Right.
He says that it can be accommodated.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say was this, and I'll just say it to you guys, because the last time this was attempted, and Roger may remember this, I was a principal. And it turned out to be a disaster because the system failed to find the right person to put in the job. You know what I'm talking about. The person, there were employees actually assaulted this person because he baited them into fistfights. Several of us principals got together and said, we don't want this person in our school. He was not allowed to step foot at Orange High. You know, it's gotta be a carefully selected person. Because, and then they have to have some training. If somebody's not doing their job, hopefully the attorney and human resources can train this person on what they should be documenting, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just putting that out there because I think it's a great idea, I'm fully supportive of it, but you gotta have the right person doing this. You don't need to have somebody go in there and beating up on people and threatening them. It's somebody who needs a particular skill set who can pull this off, that's what I'm saying.
Smiley?
So I'm really supportive of the part of it that allows other people to focus on the bond projects. My question, I thought, like, we just approved that big custodial contract. So how many custodians do we have in-house? And do their own sort of review to make sure everything was up to standard and everything. So I guess, I didn't think we had that many custodians in-house anymore, and I guess I'm wondering, like, is this a full position or not?
So yes, so we do have, we have over 20 custodians that will still be on staff.
Okay.
So I think the strongest point here, the strongest goal is that there is, I won't call it a breakdown, but there's a very large divide between in staff and out of staff. And there needs to be a strong communication between what happens with, and we're running a hybrid program, I guess I should back up a little more. We have Orange County employees during the day, and our new vendor, who is Bud Group, will be coming in at night. So a lot of times, things don't get completed at night, and that information needs to be conveyed to the people during the day, and vice versa. Daytime sometimes doesn't finish tasks, and nighttime comes in and doesn't understand why.
So the contract, I'm sorry, so the
Yes, sir.
contract did have CW Stanford during the day and the high schools during the day, right?
Yes, sir, that is
Okay,
correct.
so,
That's full.
yeah,
And
just
we are
because the way you were
transitioning
saying it,
that.
they do, I mean, we did outsource some of the day work
Right.
to some of them. But the
Yes.
elementaries, like you're saying, would be done in-house, right? And
That's
the other
correct.
middle schools. I just wanted, because the way you said it just sounded like,
Yes,
hey,
Every one of the elementary schools will have Orange County Schools employees.
okay.
except Central.
Except for Sunday.
Except for
Yeah.
Central. Central will have full-time Bud Group.
Good.
So there just needs to be a better way to communicate from our side to the vendor. I have been doing this job for the last, since I got here. And it is a very interesting dynamic between our district and the outside vendor to make sure that everything is not dropped. We also have a lot of employees in the district, and they need support. It's difficult as a custodian in a building to make sure that you have everything that you need all the time, to make sure that information is conveyed back to the district. One thing that Della does for us constantly, Della Putney is our admin, and Della constantly is providing support for custodians to make sure that no school is left unattended. We make sure that if somebody's out sick or has an absence, that we find a sub for them. So those are critical things to our buildings, especially to our our elementary schools. And I think this person will be able to bridge that gap. So,
Along with other duties also, like we're trying to free up Sarah, some of Sarah's time and let this person help with fire inspections, make sure the custodians are doing the fire reports like they're supposed to, and teach them how to do that, and that would free up some more of Sarah's time also. We got a long list of stuff we can put on this person.
There's some there's some really cool things that are getting ready to happen in our district. One of them is cleaning supplies. We're gonna standardize cleaning supplies in this district. That's the first time that has happened in a very, very long time. And we're gonna need some training. And we have, 20+ employees in-house. They're gonna need to understand the products that we are now going to be provided by this new outside vendor, which Sarah truly loves, because now we have 5 SDS sheets instead of 75. So there's gonna be some very strong, there's some real benefits coming.
It's gonna be so much easier for us to keep up with
Yes.
that stuff.
We all know this is we know custodial issues for our district has been a need for a while. And we have really been hammering this as a department. We have been working on this since last March. I mean, it has been a daily task for us to try to improve our custodial needs as a district. We need it and our kids deserve it, so.
And the staff does.
Yes, they do.
Move the approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very
Motion
much.
carries, thank you. All right, board attorney reports? and
No
updates?
report.
All right.
All right, do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
The reasons previously stated and are on the printed agenda. That work?
You said it?
Sorta.
Yeah, you said it.
Second.
All in favor?
It's not
All right.
stable.
All right, we are now in closed session. We'll give just a moment for people